Leslie, and we are going to be shifting her look just slightly. So if you look at this section here I've left out, Leslie has this line of demarcation from her previous color. She has these great high and low lights. She has this level 2 base. So what we want to do is give her a little more longevity. To achieve this new look, I'm going to be using Ultra Lightener, which is our fabulous lightener that lifts up to 9 levels. It's absolutely amazing. And it smells like bananas, which is super fun. And I'm going to be using that around the hairline, this lightness up. This base color is a level 2, so it's quite dark. We want to make sure that we're blurring this line of demarcation and give her something that has this great youthful, bohemian, lived-in kind of look.
So beautiful Bailey here is already blonde. She's already gorgeous. What we want to do today is just accentuate what she already has. We're going to give her a beautiful, beautiful blonde halo. I'm just going to show you her parting here. And what we did is we sectioned her entire hairline all the way around. I'm going to be baby lighting this entire section that's left out. I'll be using our blue lightener with our 20 volume blue developer. And we just want that pop, that gorgeous, gorgeous pop of color. When she pulls her hair up, she's gonna look blonde. When it's down, it's gonna be diffused by what we let down from here.
So what I did to start, section out this first baby light. Let me show that to you. What this is going to do is break up any of the line of demarcation here along her hairline. So when she throws her hair up, which is always a concern. So my second foil is coming in right behind my baby light. The reason I do this, especially at the hairline, is it softens a normal slice. So think of it like a butterfly. On one side, you have this baby light, like a wing. In the center, you have this bright, bold slice of blonde. And then on the opposite side, you again have that softening by the baby light. What's great about this technique is it's gonna soften all around the hairline. I'm going to be able to take some of this dark down a little bit when I go to tone her. We're gonna be utilizing Andiamo, which is our 10-minute permanent color. I'm gonna be able to pull down some of that dark, use these butterflies to infiltrate the dark, if you will, and brighten that up a little bit, give it some dimension and that like bohemian lived-in vibe.
We started on Bailey on this side with very, very fine baby lights, but heavily put in. So I really want that color or that blonde to pop around her face. So just your typical baby lighting, just taking a very fine, fine section to where you could read a newspaper through it and then just heavily weaving it. Making sure to keep close to the scalp. And a lot of that comes down to your foil. You know, if you notice when I put the foil in, I'm lifting that section up, bringing the foil in, and then pulling that section down. That just ensures that I'm right up at the scalp. Again, utilizing 20 volume in blue with our blue lightener, which is such an awesome combo. This is probably my favorite combo to use when I'm doing face framing. And she's already been highlighted, so I'm making sure the pieces that are really light, I'm not saturating those. I'm lightly feathering those pieces, but her natural, she's about a 6. Those are the ones I'm really, really focusing on to make sure we get that pop.
I'm working on the back nape hairline area, which is super important, especially when you're going from such a stark line of demarcation. You want to make sure that when you're blurring, you're concentrating on the nape area, because if your clients throw their hair back, they want to be able to see that shine and that dimension everywhere. They don't want it to feel like where you can see it's done and then in the nape it's not. Hairlines are have really become important, I think, to most clients. Don't you think, Robertina?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is one of, I think, my favorite techniques to do, especially on blondes, because when you're blonde, you want to be blonde, right? You want to see that blonde.
Yeah.
So, I mean, take it from one blonde to another, right, Bailey?
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is, Bailey's a natural level 6. And she's already pretty light. She's got these gorgeous highlights from previous in there already, but I just want that hairline to almost look solid, but I want it to grow out nicely. I want it to be diffused, and I want it almost to look like a natural halo, which I know isn't quite a thing, but we're gonna make it a thing. We're gonna totally do it.
We're doing magic.
We're doing magic. So I'm already, let's see, I'm 5 foils deep. And what I did when I sectioned her off, it's depending on how her hairline goes, it's anywhere from 2 to 2.5 inches from her hairline back is what we did for her halo. And I'm taking paper thin sections, and then I'm heavily weaving it just to make sure there's more blonde than natural, but still utilizing her natural. When I'm placing her foil, it's really important to me. I want that color to look like it's growing out of her scalp. So I want that color to be up close. So I'm gonna pull her section up, place the foil, and then pull that section back down so you can see how tight that is on her scalp.
The sectioning, I think, is the most important thing when it comes to blonding. One of the most important things that is dependent on your saturation. If your sectioning is too large, and all of us have had that situation, right, where you open a foil after a full head of highlights or any pre-lightening, and you had that one piece that you didn't, like, it just wasn't sliced thin enough.
Right.
So you have that little surprise, that little blotch, you didn't get full saturation. There's nothing that will ruin your day faster than that. So the rule of thumb we always use is it should be thin enough to read a newspaper through, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And in the situation that I have here is because she already has some highlights in there, I'm pulling some of those really light pieces out, feathering the medium ones, and then really saturating her natural dark ones. Finished on her side, the way that I like to do placement here is work from side to side rather than, or jump from side to side rather than go around in a circle. One thing you'll notice is as soon as I start each section, I'm making sure to apply color prime. And mostly it's for what color prime does as far as prepping the hair for color, but also when working with such fine hair, that hair tends to try to get away from you, and it's just a great way to kind of keep everything in place. So I'm making sure to get those highlights exactly where I want them. I completed her right side, just around her temple. Now I'm moving over to her left side. I like to make sure I'm jumping back and forth because I want all that lift to be as even as possible. So if I start here and work all the way around here, I feel like it's not gonna be as even as if I were to go here, then here, then here, then here.
All right, so I've moved on to the next sectioning. As you can tell, right here we have our first butterfly right at the nape along the hairline. What I'm going to do for the most impact with the least amount of time and energy, I love this trick, I'm going to move diagonal, shifting up this quadrant. It's not a crazy difference, but there's a slight one here. It's a triangle that I've made. This is our subsection under here. What this is gonna do is create this great pocket of depth in between all of these butterflies. And because we're going back and forth, when these points come together, it's going to create like a beacon of light. There's gonna be a concentration of light at this point here and wider depth here. And then we're gonna flip the script and do the same here. So we're gonna have these, what this does is create this really lived in without doing a balayage or pockets of brightness and pockets of depth. The reason I like to do that is it keeps me organized so I'm not running into any foils, because as you work in the back of the head, depending on the head, you may not be able to sandwich, or like we've moved here where I'm actually not going to crease either sides of this foil because it's a wider span. And I don't want to get in my own way over here. If I've gone all the way up on one side, I will. 1. 2, you want to make sure that the level of lightness and brightness remains the same. If you do one whole side of the head and then you turn around and do the other, you're going to have a disconnect of lightness and brightness. Right, Robertina?
Yes. One of the things that I love the absolute most about the hairline halo is you can honestly use this technique by itself, which I've done a lot where a client just wants a little bit of something, but not necessarily a full color. So you can use it on its own. You can use it as a combo with any other color technique. If you balayage, we have a great product for balayaging. It's our freehand lightener. So if your client is a balayage client, after you do the hairline halo, you can also go through and balayage the interior. So it's a good way to combo it up there. But you also don't have to only do this with blondes. It's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome.
It's one of those tools that I think every colorist needs in their toolbox. As soon as I'm done here, I will move to her fringe area and continue doing the same placement.
When you're working on lower levels, you want to make sure that you're starting where the hair can be darker and more resistant, which is typically in the nape. Also, I want to pivot when I'm finished here right to the face frame, because that's where I want that light, bright dimension that's going to light up around her face. So we're pausing here. We still have this little bit in the crown. And I'm going to start working right here, doing the same thing. I'm going to bounce back and forth, working diagonal and putting in those butterflies. So this happens a lot. I want to address this. Sometimes we have like an uneven hairline, which is totally normal. Most of us, in fact, have this. So working with one motion all the way through with the same pattern doesn't always work. So this is where you'll pivot to make sure that you're getting that light and definition on both sides. What I'm going to do is lay out one butterfly here on the side, and then I'm going to move to the front and lay out another separate butterfly. So they're just smaller subsections. It's a little bit more work, but the finish is the best. You're going to get that true, soft light around the face.
We have foiled all the way around her head with the exception of the front. So here, because this section is a little wider than I'm comfortable controlling, I'm going to split it in half. She has told me that she parts in the middle, to the left, to the right. So rather than cutting it directly in half, what I'm going to do is do a zigzag part right in the middle. That way, as I'm foiling, I'm not ever going to run into a situation where I have a highlighted piece on top of a highlighted piece on top of a highlighted piece. So this will just kind of keep me safe and break it up without a definite line in the color. And then I'm going to go through and continue doing exactly what I've done all the way around. So we're looking at 10 or so more foils and we'll be ready to move on.
And again, just like in the nape, I'm bouncing back and forth. I want to make sure that both sides are getting same amount of processing time to ensure we don't have one side that's like super electric and one that hasn't been there yet. No Cruella de Vil splits, if you will. I'm going in, laying out my first butterfly in the front. And I'm working on the last wing over here, and then I'll show you how I'm transitioning in this hairline. Coming in, we're gonna close this up, get it out of our way, and I'll show you our sectioning here. So I'll show you the sectioning. This was the first side that we started on, so I'm gonna bounce back over here and work. I've taken, again, another triangle section here. The point is going to be at the front. And remember, those diagonal partings that just kiss each other in those corners create those bold pieces of light. So I want to make sure that that small point is right around her face. And now we have this clean section here to put in another butterfly. So we're going to work our way up. Essentially, the way this works is everything's coming up and meeting here at the top in the crown area. So in this section that I have taken out, this is going to be the top of the crown, right? We're going to work this butterfly away from the face, so we have that nice light right there. But what I want to make sure I do here is take a small subsection on her part line. This is a game changer. So we're going to do a butterfly right here on her part line, and this is gonna give her light right at her part. So I'm gonna take this away, and I'm going to twist it, and I'm gonna clip it back. That way, it's totally out of my way, and I can work on my butterfly here, and then my butterfly here. So we're going to essentially meet, again, a point right at the hairline. So she's gonna have 3 points of light around her hairline. One thing I like to do when I'm working around a hairline is you have those little baby hairs. I like to split the baby hairs. So I'll take them and I do just really light little feathering in there and make sure that I'm incorporating that into the baby light so that half of those baby hairs are light and bright and sort of fall into the placement that we've created, and then half still have that natural color.
We've done it, we've made it. We're to our last foil. Same thing, just a nice paper thin baby light. And then I get to show you how awesome this looks before I pull the rest of that hair down. Another way, so I'm weaving in with my tail comb the baby lights. Another way that you can do this is you can air touch it around the entire hairline, which is something I also do. And because I love that technique so much, that's what I will be doing through the interior of her hair. So you'll get to pick and choose what kind of technique you want to use for this placement. So you can foil it like I'm doing, you can air touch it, you can also do teasy lights. So do some light back combing and balayage it. They all look really good, depending on the look that you're going for. So let's fold this little guy up. Look how cool that looks.
That's beautiful.
Right?
It is super impactful. Like, that is Insta-worthy as a hairdresser if you're posting, which you're a hairdresser,
you should be posting.
You are posting. You are.
Beautiful. So this alone could be its own technique. You could just do this and leave the rest of it down, and that could be just enough for your client that comes in. Or what we're going to do is we're going to continue coloring and just soften up her base here, just so it has a little bit more blend. But I want the impact to be that halo.
Have you ever been like baby lighting, like a really tight little spot, and your client's telling a story, and they talk with their face,
and they're a head talker,
and they're like, "Oh my god!" and you're like, "I will stab you." Okay. All right, so we have great. So we have moved all the way through now. You can see all the placement of the butterflies throughout Leslie's hair. And what we're left with is this triangle right at her crown. So what I've done is separated it a little more than half. And I'm gonna do a butterfly right in the center of this. This is gonna leave a little bit of that depth here where these two triangles meet. And again, where the triangles meet, we're gonna have this big, bold space of light. And in between is where we'll get our depth, which are equally important when we're trying to achieve that really lived-in sort of bohemian vibe. I'm going to take this section and do my last butterfly.
Here's your butterfly.
Hey, I'm flying by over here. Robertina, you're also working on the crown area, aren't you?
I am. So we finished up her halo hairline. Now we're gonna start and diffuse what we have going on up here. So what I did, I took a square parting up right on top. So think of your traditional mohawk parting right on top, nice little square, and we're gonna work within that. All I wanna do is diffuse her natural into her ends. Right now she has, you can see the lines from her previous highlights, and they're not bad. It looks, I mean, it really does look good. It's just very grown out. So rather than going through and doing this entire interior, we're just gonna focus on this section up here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using my blow dryer on a low setting with no heat because I don't want to risk getting her scalp hot. I don't usually like to burn my clients, so we'll just keep that up. And I am switching from blue lightener to our quick lift lightener up here. So our quick lift is awesome. I just need a little bit of pop, so that's gonna be my go-to. With air touching, Again, I'm utilizing very fine sections. I've already sprayed color prime on her through here, but I'm just gonna give it just a little bit more because I feel like it makes it easier to work with the hair when it has a little bit of that on there. Okay, so I'm gonna take my nice paper thin section. You can see that line of demarcation there. This is what we're going to diffuse a little bit. So with Air Touch, you want to find where you're gonna hold the hair tight, and usually that's gonna be where you want your brightness to really start, because what happens is it gives you the same effect as if you're doing like teasy lights or light backcombing, but without the backcombing. So what it's gonna do when I hit my blow dryer here, all the hair that didn't reach my fingers is gonna be released, and we're gonna use that as our depth. So you can already see it starting to release. I'm actually gonna pull just a little bit more. And now I'm gonna utilize my blow dryer. And you can see that hair release. So now what I'm gonna do is these little loops, I'm just gonna pull my comb in and just make sure those are out. And all this will be left behind. And you can see on this section, it wasn't very much because I'm holding about halfway down the strand. If I were to hold down here, a lot more would be released.
All right, so we've just finished with all of our butterfly placements, which is our first step on Leslie. You can see through here, we have a lot of foils, creating a lot of dimension in very little time. This is a very, very fun technique.
So on this side here, we have a little bit more of that dark coming through. So what I'm going to do, I've applied on the new growth, I've feathered down a little bit on the dark, and now I'm just going to pick out these dark pieces because I do want to lighten those up. And I'm going to pull those up, grab another foil, and place it right underneath, making sure I'm covering those really, really blonde ends underneath and not risking over processing.
My friend Barbara here, Barb, she is 50% gray at her base, which we can see. She's a natural level 5, and today we're going to be utilizing the amazing Andiamo. If you have not used Andiamo before, it is Aloxxi's 10-minute permanent color, so it is 100% gray coverage and up to 4 levels of lift with our high lift in 10 minutes. More than ever, people are craving convenience. Behind my chair have set aside a day a week where I just do bases and blowouts, which is awesome. Everybody's had that client who comes in for a base and maybe a little bit of a trim on Saturdays, but they cancel on you on your biggest day of the week. What I've been able to do is get those clients in on their lunch break during the week. So I can do a 1-hour base and blowout any day. It's been a game changer for me. I absolutely love it. We are going to not only do her base, but we're also going to melt through the mid-length and ends. She has these beautiful pre-lightened sections. We're going to melt through side by side, quick, fast and beautiful.
We are finished. We've got foils in here. Now that Barbara has her base applied, I'm going through just with a very, very wide tooth comb and just kind of smudging it through a tiny bit. And now we're gonna play with our end colors. So the colors that we're using are 7GM, 7 Gold Mahogany, and 7C, 7 Copper. 7GM. Next section will be 7C.
Right. Thank you so much, Robertina, for taking over with Barb.
Absolutely.
I'm
more than happy to.
Back for Leslie. And what we're going to do, we are half lightened with our lightener, 20 minutes in. I'm going to be using 7A or level 7 Ash from our Andiamo series, and that is our 10-minute permanent color. to paint in between each of these foils. I'm gonna be using 20 volume blue, so it's gonna give us a little extra control in that ash world because we're moving from such a dark level. But I'm only gonna be using 20 volume because I really just wanna bump that base a level. Andiamo! Here we go! This is going to help again with that dimension we talked about. Sort of bridging the gap. That's really what we're doing. We're bridging the gap between her light and her dark. One of the great things about Andiamo that you'll find when you apply, it has this, like the perfect viscosity. It's like if a gel and a cream made a baby, it would be that. So it just glides in, which is great because when you're doing something fast and beautiful, you want to make sure you're getting full penetration of product.
Yeah, the consistency of Andiamo is probably my favorite. Makes it easy to work with, fast to work with, which is, I mean, ideally what you want in an express service, right?
For sure. Yeah, I use it a lot toning too. So you can use this on damp hair. It's great to tone. If you have, which I just experienced actually, if you're doing like a color correction or even not a color correction, if you have a global blonde and you're almost there, right? Like you just wish you had one more little level of umph. The 11A, the 11 ash is killer.
Can you just mix it with 10 vol?
So actually it depends. That's a great question. It depends on where their hair is at. Like if I've done a global and their hair still feels great and I really want that extra lift, I'll utilize the 40 blue.
We've got Barbara's color applied. So I think this is gonna be really pretty. We've got timer set and in 10 minutes, she will be done.
Leslie here, and as you can see, it's gorgeous as is. It's really evened out any lines of demarcation that we had through her mid-length. However, I really want to showcase an awesome tip and trick using an express service to just take this to the next level. I'm going to be using 9V or 9 Violet in tones with 7 volume. And then right next to that, I'm going to be using a mixture of 6A, 6 Ash, which is a blue base, also in tones. And that is mixed with our 7B or 7 Beige.
Bailey here could be considered done. We've highlighted her. We gave her a beautiful halo hairline. And we flash toned her with just a little bit of violet shampoo mixed with regular shampoo just to soften it up just a little bit. I want to maintain the warm tones as much as I can because we will be playing with some warm Instaboost colors on her. But realistically, she could be done now and just be well on her way. However, we are going to give her a little bit of a rosy kind of blushy tone and then also a gold tone intermixed. So what I've done to part her off, and it's a very, very loose kind of organic parting, but I took that halo that we did and added some of the dark with it just so it doesn't look too much like a block color and it's got a little bit of softness to it because her dark color isn't going to take the blush as well as or as vibrant as the light pieces will. And the mixture for this is 2 parts of Instaboost pink with 1 part of Instaboost gold. So it's going to be a little more pink than our rose gold. Well, and that's what's fun with our Instaboost colors is you can intermix them however you want, make your own shades. And we applied the RRX in the express way. So you mix part 1 with part 2 and apply it to the hair and let it sit. Applying her Instaboost almost like a toner. and her hair is going to feel like heaven. It just makes the hair feel so good.
Well, and it's versatile too, right?
Absolutely.
I have a couple of clients who are balayaged on the ends pretty light, and they work their way through all of the colors. They'll put red through their ends and play with that a little bit, and then they'll put copper through when that washes out, and then they'll move into golds. I'm taking the 7A Andiamo, and I'm literally just smudging the very top of the highlights. You can bring this down. Sometimes I'll smudge just down 1/2 inch from the base, and maybe the next slice I'll come down, a whole inch. And that way I'm really playing with that. That gives us more blur, more concealment of that original line of demarcation, and it gives it more of a natural look too. I'm going to quickly go through in diagonal sections, alternating my mixes. I'm taking the 9V and putting that close to the face though, because this is that level 9. It's gonna give her that light and bright and that beautiful violet finish. I'm actually gonna come in and do one more section of that. I love using 2 tones side by side because it gives, especially if you're working, this isn't considered really a color correction, but if you are working a color correction and you have any banding that you're trying to blur or to conceal, I want to keep her ends light. So what I may do with a few of my lows is come through and paint, and then I'm going to switch it up to the 9V towards the ends and just melt that in.
You'll notice with Bailey's hair, I'm applying Insta Boost to everything, not just the light pieces. Some of the darker pieces won't pick up as vibrant, but it will still have a little bit of that sheen of whatever color we're using on her. And it's going to make the hair all feel amazing.